In 1921, archaeologists in Denmark opened a burial mound that had been sealed for more than 3,000 years. They expected bones, maybe fragments of tools, maybe dust. What they did not expect was to come face to face with a teenage girl who felt unsettlingly close to modern. She had been placed inside a hollowed oak tree trunk turned into a coffin and sealed beneath a massive earthen mound near the village of Ekved. When the lid was lifted, time seemed to fold in on itself. Her body had not survived completely, but parts of her had. Her hair, her nails, her teeth, even traces of skin and soft tissue, enough to remind everybody in the room that this was not a legend or a myth. This was a real person. She lived around 1370 BC during the Nordic Bronze Age. That makes her roughly 3,400 years old. And yet, what stunned archaeologists most was not just her preservation, it was how carefully she had been dressed. This was not a simple burial. She wore a fitted wool blouse and a short corded skirt made from twisted strands of wool. Around her waist was a belt with a large bronze disc, polished and deliberate, placed at the center of her body. To modern eyes, the outfit almost looked fashionable. Outfit looked minimal, but it also looked intentional. Something that would not look out of place at a music festival or a gathering today. For decades, people would look at reconstructions of her clothing and say the same thing. She does not look ancient, she looks current. But clothing was only the beginning of her story. As archaeologists examined the coffin more closely, they realized this burial had layers. Near her feet were the cremated remains of a small child, possibly around 6 years old. The relationship between them is still unknown. A sibling, a companion, a ritual offering, no one could say for sure. There was a small birch bark container placed beside her. Inside were traces of a fermented drink made from wheat, honey, and wild berries, essentially a Bronze Age beer. This was not everyday food. This was ceremonial, something prepared for an important moment. Flower pollen found inside the coffin suggested she was buried in summer. This was not a rushed burial. It was planned, symbolic, and thought out. From the beginning, archaeologists believed she must have been somebody important. But for a long time, that importance was a mystery. Then, nearly a century after her discovery, science caught up. Researchers began analyzing isotopes in her teeth, hair, and clothing. These isotopes act like geological fingerprints. Different regions leave different chemical signatures in the body depending on the water you drink and the land you live on. And what they found changed everything. The Ekved girl was not local to the area where she was buried. In fact, the isotopes suggested she spent most of her life hundreds of miles away, possibly in what is now southern Germany. Even more surprising, the analysis of her hair showed she moved back and forth between regions multiple times in the last 2 years of her life. This was not a static life in a small village. This was a teenager who traveled long distances during the Bronze Age. There wasn't any roads or maps like we have today, just trade routes, alliances, and human connections stretching across Europe. Suddenly,